A loud and nostalgic school bell rings, and as it goes off, all the students in the different classes get ready to leave. In one of the classes, our main protagonist is also ready to leave. However, instead of leaving, he looks around and quietly walks off, checking everything. Someone calls out to him from behind, and in fear, he glances back. His teacher tells him not to forget his duties with the bunnies and smiles at him. As Kuroz calms down and acknowledges his duties, he bows slightly, and in the next instant, the teacher is surrounded by girls and boys. Kuroz's teacher is a star at the school, and almost everyone is a fan of him. Even Kuroz himself can't help but be in awe of the presence and aura that he possesses. As he walks, wondering to himself that his time there will be fun, it all goes down. We see 3 timid bunnies terrified of something. 2 students laugh at someone, and Kuroz cries that all his life he only ever wanted peace and no trouble. 2 more students mock someone and tell him to choose something properly, as it would make him look more mature. There, Kuroz is lying as a couple of guys are making him eat rabbit poop and are forcefully opening his mouth so they could chug the whole scoop full of that gross stuff and choke him. Kuroz cries and exclaims for help, and they laugh while he struggles under them. They laugh, telling him to chew it harder. Kuroz was earlier begging not to be caught by these bullies, but he ends up meeting them anyway, and they would always make his life hell. One of the bullies yells and asks Fudo for the next torture. He quietly approaches Kuroz and lifts his face up using his foot, telling them that Kuroz still looks handsome and he probably needs piercing in his ears. Kuroz starts to beg him to stop since his mother hates the idea of piercings, and he exclaims, telling him that all hell will break loose in his home. Hearing this, Fudo shouts that piercing his ear would be the next thing they would try. From the side, a girl questions just how they will pierce the skin, and Fudo tells them that they will be using a safety pin and make a hole with that. As his tears overflow and he cries, Fudo starts to push the needle in his ear, and it ends up going all the way. Poor Kuroz shouts from the pain and cries out, and Fudo just laughs, wondering if gluing the tip would help with the pain. As he wonders of any other way to make the pain last longer, from the side, a teacher opens the door and sees the bullying in action. Kuroz immediately glances at her and mutters her name. The teacher asks them what is going on, and Fudo simply tells her that they are checking his ears since it was bitten by a bunny. As she hears these useless, absurd comments, she asks Kuroz if he is okay, and if that is what happened. Immediately, Kuroz remembers how Fudo threatened him and told him to never snitch, and if he were to ever do something like that, they would kill him and even make his mother's life hell. With a trembling voice he mutters and tells the teacher that he is okay, and he is just receiving help from his friends. It is clear that he is trembling from pain and fear, but the weird and stupid teacher just looks at him and passes out a fake smile, complimenting that they sure are very close with each other. As Fudo pats her shoulder and walks her out, she leaves without asking anything again. Just as she leaves, everyone starts to mock her and how she is still into adult fantasy between 2 men. Fudo tells everyone that their plans for today may be cancelled, and they would need to change their strategies. As he passes a menacing look toward Kuroz, he looks back, knowing that he could never run away from these pieces of trash. Their next plan is to make him get into such a troublesome situation that he himself would need to cry from humiliation. The first thing that he is assigned is to confess to the most undesirable girl in the class. Kuroz has to confess to the obese girl of their class, and he would have to do it in front of everyone and out loud. As he shouts, the girl knows that he is pulling something off and slaps him in front of the entire class. As 2 girls see this, they wonder to themselves if Kuroz has a screw nut or something, and why would he damage his reputation in front of everyone like this. Kuroz is told not to stop there and further confess to someone else. As he does it, one of his classmates kicks him and tells him not to cross the line. As Kuroz stutters and looks back, questioning him, Seiki tells him to stop messing around, and he already knows why he is confessing his love to anyone he sees. As one of the girls questions Kuroz's intention, Kuroz is sad that even though his classmate knows that something is going on with him, he never bothers to help him or even call for help. Seiki leaves and tells him to stop playing victim and fight back. As he leaves, Kuroz is shaken by those words and questions just how he would be able to fight when he is up against almost all the bullies and their families. He is pushed to the point that there is only one option left. Later, after the hellish school session ends, he gets back and is sure to just transfer and withdraw from the school once and for all. He even goes all the way and writes a heartfelt message to the principal. Kuro's cries that he really wants to graduate, but at this rate, his life would be pushed to the maximum extent, and he would no longer be able to endure. From the back, his mother surprises him and asks what he is doing, and he spins around and asks her why she isn't on her night shift. His mother tells him that she forgot something, and her attention is grabbed by the letter that he wrote earlier. As she sees it and realizes that it is in fact a letter about him withdrawing from the school. In fury, she slaps him and reminds him that she worked day and night to support his expensive school, and if he were to leave now, there was no point in her working all those long hours. He starts to share how he actually plans to get a certificate from a university, and how he plans to provide for both of them, and his mother notices something strange about him and points out that his ear is pierced. In an instant, she is beyond furious, and she begins to stomp on him and takes out her anger as he grunts and cries out that it isn't the full story. His mother starts to cry and weep that she is the most unfortunate woman for giving birth to a useless human. Although she is sad and feels like her hard work is wasted just like this, she doesn't even bother to ask his side of the story. The next day, his cycle of bullying would definitely continue, and he asks how on God's good green earth would he be able to escape this ongoing hell. As his regular duty is called, and he returns to the bunnies, he sees something very sad. A bunny is killed by the bullies and left to die. Poor Curious gasps for air and is broken down from the inside as all the bullies laugh at him and the bunny. Curious starts to cry and immediately spins around to attack, but one of the bullies throws him to the ground and reminds him that the bunny died because he was rejected by everyone else, and there was nothing that they could do, and in the first place, they didn't even do anything. With rage, he screams that they killed the speechless animal and cries why they are going this far. They mock him, and Curious is serious with his question and yells at them to answer. Fudo sees a flashback of Curious all laughing and happy when he wasn't bullied, and he takes a pause and stomps his head down and tells him that it is fun to play around with him, and it is much more entertaining to bully him. All broken and pushed to the maximum extent, poor Curious buries the bunny and bids him farewell. He knows for a fact that animals and their lives are just a plaything for them, and soon they will kill the rest of the animals, which is why he can't leave this school under any circumstances. He clenches the trowel and is sure that he might be pushed to the level where he might even have to do something that never in his life he imagined. From behind, someone calls out to him again, and there, his teacher approaches him and comforts him, telling him that he heard from another teacher that one of the bunnies was not accepted by others and was killed in a horrible way. As Curious walks off, ignoring all the other things that he spews, Curious has a pissed expression that is clear as day. He is about to do something terrible. The teacher glances at him and immediately grabs his hand, taking back his previous comments about the bunny as they both interact in a rather intense conversation. His teacher reminds him that seeking revenge won't bring back the bunny's life. With pure hatred and angry tone, he asks his teacher what he is supposed to do. The teacher grabs his shoulder and tells him to rethink everything and tells him that Curious must rely on him no matter what. He reminds him of his dream, and Curious hears everything. The teacher even adds that he is going to catch the culprit and expose him no matter what. As he comforts and tries his very best to lead Curious on the right path once more, he starts to cry from the worry, and his pure words finally reach Curious, and he drops the trowel. What seemed like a hopeless fight, he is sure that this teacher is the only thread that he is holding on with everything that he has. The next day, Curious' eyes widen as his teacher does something that he has no idea would be possible. However, to everyone else, this is just a boring thing. His teacher makes a bold plan to tackle with abuse of any type by introducing a complaint box, in which students having any problem could share them without revealing their identities. In this way, anyone who has problems or things that they are actively facing, disputes, bullying, harassment, or blackmailing, can be discussed by the teacher and the authorities. Although this seems like a very normal and positive change, this is actually a nightmare for Curious. As he sweats heavily and glares back at Fudo, who is beyond angry, it is clear that Curious' actions create a tighter environment for their bullying. Now everyone could complain about their behavior and potentially get caught. And later, his nightmare comes to light. Up on the rooftop, Curious gets slammed to the ground and grunts from the pain. Fudo and the guys are at it again, and this time it seems like they are more aggressive than before. From the start, Fudo makes sure that if he were to snitch, they would literally rain hell on him. They start to kick him, knowing that the teacher knows about their activities. As he grunts and questions why he is always in the center of them, in a cold and dead voice, Fudo tells him to jump, and in this way, all their tough times will be normal again. This is something that would make them murderers, and he starts to realize the weight behind their words. Fudo brings out his mobile and starts to tell him that he will make sure to deliver his last message to his mother. It seems they all are actually there to see him jump, and he immediately dashes off, telling them that this is too much. The girl in the group pushes him and tells him that it is his fault for getting bullied in the first place. She shouts and tells him to die so she would stop getting dreams of him. One of the guys pushes her off and tells her to relax and tell him in a much better way. One of the bullies start to beg him to jump off the roof and cries about how this will be the greatest gift that he could give them. Kuraz exclaims and tells him that they are murderers. Soon every single one of them turns disgusting high school bullying into an attempted murder. They start to push him and corner him near the edge of the roof, and one of the bullies tells him that his mother herself is miserable to support him and his expensive school, and tells him that in this way he would surely be able to make it up to his mother. As he realizes they have no intention of letting him off, they are able to corner him right at the edge of the rooftop, and all of them start to tell him that his death would mean everything to them. They start to sing and repeatedly tell him to jump and jump. Kuraz is at a point that everything starts to spin, and he is sure that this is worse than hell itself, and the dizziness soon affects his whole body. He slips, and there he is about to fall off the cliff. For the last time, he stretches his hand in hopes that maybe he could at least once experience mercy from his enemy, and Fudo stretches out his hand and waves him goodbye as he falls to his death. The last thing that poor Kuraz sees isn't his still face, rather it is him spitting on him as he falls. Crying and with rage boiling inside him, he tells him that he would never forgive him. As Fudo laughs and tells him that he doesn't care about his vengeance and forgiveness, Kuraz falls down, crying that if he were to get one more chance and had different circumstances, he would gladly take it and fight back harder than ever. He prays, and on the other side his teacher Shiratori is roaming around and notices Kuraz's shoe on the ground. As he kneels to check the tag and confirm it, on top of him is Kuraz falling. As Shiratori hears his cries, he looks up, and Kuraz's head strikes with Shiratori's head perfectly, that every fiber in their bodies reacts in harmony to each other. And the thunder strikes harder than ever. As they both bleed to their death, one tragedy helps another, and both lie there, bleeding heavily from the head. After several days, the news of Kuraz's jump goes viral, and everyone in the school knows about it. They are much more attracted to Shiratori's accident rather than his, and Kuraz's jump is concluded as an attempt to take one's own life. Although his head is done for, he still clings on to life and is unconscious in the hospital. Somehow Kuraz is able to survive that fall and now is fighting for his life. As Fudo laughs and mocks Kuraz's miserable luck, he smiles and is happy that he had a blast. He mutters that teacher Shiratori must have died as well and cries that he should have at least seen this masterful painting. A portrait of Shiratori stands proudly at the front of the school, drawing gazes from every student. Compliments and praises for the expensive painting fill the air, and a shy Shiratori responds to their comments. From the back, the real Shiratori greets everyone. Upon seeing the portrait, he exclaims that he must have missed a lot during his absence. Despite terrible injuries, Shiratori appears fine, casually walking back into school. His presence electrifies everyone. They rush towards him, inquiring about his well-being. As he reassures them that he's okay, and so is the student with him, Shiratori begins to stutter and misspeak occasionally. Fudo, observing Shiratori's popularity and the student's fondness for him, he grows visibly displeased and pissed. He mutters to himself that he should get Shiratori out of the school as well. From the side, Shiratori gently pats Fudo's shoulder, remarking that it was worth it to return as a teacher. When Shiratori says this, an afterimage of Kuraz flickers, and the choice of words feels distinctly like something Kuraz would say. Fudo glances back, fact-checking Shiratori, asking if he can help him. Shiratori replies that there's nothing, simply stating he patted his shoulder because he was happy to be back. However, in reality, the perfectly timed impact from Kuraz's head transferred his consciousness into his teacher's body. As he wakes up from the injury, Kuraz is in control of Shiratori's body. He has become him. He still wonders what happened to his teacher, but Kuraz has no time for such thoughts. This time, his revenge will be so brutal that their screams will be heard everywhere. He swears he is determined to drag them and everyone around them down to the pits of hell. He shouts, "I will have my revenge in the most painful way." That night, as he is about to leave, Kuraz visits Fudo's portrait. He reminds himself that he will never forgive him and will rain terror upon him. He will ensure his revenge is inhumane and beyond reasoning. This will be Kuraz's reply to their undying bullying. He begins to stab the portrait, drawing a cross right near Fudo's head. With a cold and chilling tone, he tells them that their teacher will review their next lesson with them. For Kuraz, high school was a prison and a torture room. He remembers being beaten with a baseball bat, grunting in pain while everyone around him laughed, as if something amusing was happening to livestock. As they left, laughing and having a blast, poor Kuraz grunted, trying his best to get up, weeping about how from the first day of high school, his life had been nothing but beatings. Just as everything seemed over, the door opens one more time, and in comes Yui. He shouts that it's a good day since Kuraz wasn't robbed, and now he would do the honors and take all his money. He quickly sits down and starts looking into his bag and quietly takes out the money he had. Kuraz pleads with him not to take it, as it's all he has for the month. Yui laughs, telling him he's making a grand portrait of Fudo and needs additional funds for it. Even though the idea of drawing was Yui's, he is extorting money from the victim of the bully. Kuraz cries out, telling him not to do it, pleading that he'd been saving that money for the school field trip. With a cold tone, Yui tells Kuraz he doesn't even have friends, so why would he want to go on the trip anyway? With a trembling voice, Kuraz tells him that he would die to become a teacher, and this trip is his chance to get closer to his dream. Yui starts to mock him, saying that if Kuraz were to teach, he would make everyone else a weakling. He starts to spew about how his own dream is much more important and impactful than Kuraz. As he says this, he grabs a nearby bat, and in the next instant, he slams it against Kuraz's head. He screams that Kuraz's existence and value in this society are zero. As Kuraz wakes up back in the present, still inside Shiratori's body, he gasps for air and calms himself down. It has been 8 days since he switched minds, and somehow, Kuraz has perfectly adjusted to his teacher's life. Now, Kuraz's aim and main purpose is to take revenge, but he reflects that he won't destroy his teacher's life by simply killing them all. Instead, he will take a more calculated way to achieve his revenge. As his eyes filled with hatred and determination, he marked his first target, Yui. In the school, all the bullies saw the portrait that Yui drew, and it was all messed up. As Yui questioned who could have done this, they all were sure that someone did this out of jealousy. Although nobody knew what happened, they continued their day. After their class, Yui was devastated and cried out that it took him days and days to make that. Shiratori slides the classroom door open and enters, announcing to everyone that there is something important they all need to listen to. He exclaims that during the sports class, a girl's underwear was lost. As Nene herself stood there with a troubled face, the whole class exclaims, muttering among each other. Shiratori tells them, since Yui's painting was damaged as well, something must be taking place, and the teachers need to hold a meeting and discuss this event and the painting event as well. He adds that to verify everything and make sure things don't escalate, they would be searching everyone's bag. As all the kids start to stand up and refuse this request, Yui stands up and requests them to cooperate. Deep down, he himself wants to find who messed up his painting and if that person is present in this room. Shiratori assigns the other teacher to inspect the girls' belongings, and they both start to go through their stuff. They keep going, and soon it is Yui's turn, and Miss Nene approaches him and requests his cooperation. As Yui is displeased and even swears at his teacher, telling her to check someone who actually looks suspicious, her eyes widen to see something very unexpected. Inside his bag is the missing underwear. As all the panic and chatter among students start to take place, everyone around him begins to spew how he must have brought an adult magazine to the school. He starts to sweat, and Shiratori silences the entire classroom and approaches him and confirms the possession himself. He gently lets him know that they can't escalate this problem any further, and Yui would need to stop by his office after school. As Kurosa's plan starts to work perfectly after school, Yui is beyond saving and cries that he has no idea how his bag had the underwear. As he starts to stutter and explain his side of the story, Shiratori tells Nene to excuse both of them, since Yui might have a difficult time opening up in front of a female teacher. As she leaves and gives them some private time, Shiratori brightens up and tells Yui that there is no way he doubts a student from his class. He adds that their first and last thing to do is to convince teacher Nene, who knows that he did it. Shiratori starts to add how if this thing escalates, Yui's dream of becoming an artist might be at stake. After he hears these words, he starts to fumble and stutter heavily. He couldn't believe that this was possible, and Shiratori starts to explain how the internet could affect everything that they are going through, and if his act is recorded and mentioned anywhere on the internet, he would have to say goodbye to his career. As he adds fuel to the fire and mentions how female associations are taking strict action toward underwear thieves and perverts, he mentions that there are artists who were ruined by small crimes and ended up dying miserable lives. As Shiratori perfectly corners him mentally and reminds him how he needs to forget his dream of becoming an artist if this escalates, the whole world of Yui comes crumbling down. He shouts that he would never go that low. Immediately, clever Kuroz brings out a fake tear bottle and swiftly pours it into his eyes while comforting Yui and telling him how he would help Yui find evidence no matter what and how they would think this through. As Shiratori cries fake tears and cries out to him, telling him that he would protect his student's career and life even if it cost him his, Yui is completely moved by these words and his whole world changes. The teacher whom he hated earlier is actually an angel who would help him fight false claims. He grabs his teacher's hands and exclaims what he must do. As he sees the ugly begging face he makes, Shiratori is sure that he has Yui completely in his palm, and he is head over heels and would do anything at this point. He gets up and starts to spew how it is hard to find anything, and the true culprit is smarter and wanted to frame Yui and his friends. He glances back with a fake serious expression, telling him that the real culprit would never be found in time and they would need to do something different. As he approaches Yui, he tells him that there is something that would reverse everything and they could somehow make it out safe and sound. As he pats his head, every neuron in his brain is ready to do something terrible to him. As he fakes his support, he gently brings out his mobile and messages Nene one more time and asks her for a favor that only she could do. As Shiratori smiles, he is sure that the countdown has just begun. The next day, during sports class, Yui remains behind and quietly waits for all the students to leave. Yui quickly brings out the underwear that was inside his bag and quietly tries to sneak it inside the bag of a fellow classmate. As he apologizes for his actions, on his face is an expression that only cowards and low-life trash would have. For him, his life and dream hold more weight, and the rest of the people are just dust that hinders his path. As he is sneaking this, from the side, Nene casually walks in and catches him in action. What seemed like a perfect plan that Shiratori told Yui to follow is actually a method that he wanted to use to frame him and completely destroy him. Nene tackles him down and there. His life begins to go downhill in the fastest way. On the other hand, Shiratori smirks and reminds himself that the show is just about to start. Later, in the conference room, both teachers confront him again, and this time Nene is sure that he stole the underwear. As he cries, Nene tells him that he tried to put the blame on someone else. As Shiratori tries to defend Yui again, Nene angrily gets up and reminds him that he has no right to say that after the things he was doing. She exclaims that there is no way he can defend him after his behavior. Shiratori lowers his head and grunts since it is all true. His deeds are severe and beyond saving for now. As Yui starts to cry, Shiratori can't help but laugh because of his troubled face. Kuroz isn't here to just frame him for a petty crime or something. Rather, his main goal is to perfectly end the career he cares so much for. This is going to be his ultimate revenge. Shiratori brings out a beautiful handmade fountain pen and tells Yui that he was serious in supporting his student to the point that he would spend his own money just to support his creativity. As he sees this, Yui's trust climbs higher, and he is about to cry from the gift, and quickly bows down and begs for forgiveness and cries that he only wanted to prove his innocence, and that is why he tried to frame someone else. As both teachers start to spew how they would need at least 12 hours to decide something, Nene quietly leaves and exclaims that his class is just full of trouble, and tells him that first it was Kuroz's jump, and now an underwear thief. Hearing this, the ugly turd, Yui, mutters and tells his teacher not to compare him to Kuroz, and adds that he was just a hopeless person who only wanted to die. He tells him that his case is more important, and is just a minor false accusation. Shiratori in fury lands a right punch across his cheek and drops him to the ground. After taking out his anger, he grabs him and yells how he has failed the plan, and now he is only one step closer to destroying everything. He tells him to hold on, and he would have to search the entire security camera footage to find something that could help them, and also mention that he found a strange black figure in the class that day, and he could be the real culprit who framed him and caused him to suffer. He tells him to wait for the result after school. Hearing this, his mood brightens, and this time he is sure that something could happen, and surely he would be able to make it through these tough times. He thanks his teacher and passes him a big, wide smile. After 4 excruciating hours, he waits and waits just to go back to the teacher's office and settle this problem and see the result of the camera footage. However, when he opens the door with a smile, Shiratori sits there with a grim atmosphere, and he bows down his head and apologizes to him that he was not able to find anything. He tells him that all the footage from the camera is erased, and someone got the best of them. Just hearing this, a bomb goes off inside his head, and his depression comes to life. He starts to tell him that he would do anything to save himself and his career, and he tells him to search the garbage bin for the file, and surely there could be a flash drive that has the data they are looking for. As they both spread out to search for the flash drive, Yui goes through tons and tons of trash, but he is not able to find anything. From the side, a man is emptying a bin, and he quickly calls out to him and asks what he is burning. He replies and tells him that he is taking care of some data containing documents that he was told to take care of. As he glances inside, he notices that there is a flash drive inside. He quickly orders the old man to grab that drive, and he tells him to think carefully since it is blazing hot, and he would get burns instantly. As he starts to push him, the old man leaves him, and he is so desperate to take that drive that he starts to get flashbacks of Shiratori's instructions and how he could be done and would have to sacrifice his career over this accident. He starts to mutter how he would hate that, and he is pushed to the point, and he leaps over with faith and tries to grab the drive. As flames scorch and burn his fingers, he grunts at first, but seeing the flash drive almost getting burned to a crisp, he reaches all the way inside that fire and starts to scream that he would do anything for his dream. As he screams and grabs the flash drive, he pulls it, and his entire arm is engulfed in flames. As the heat starts to become unbearable, he starts to shout for help, and the fire from his clothes begins to damage the arm. He starts to cry for help and screams as loud as he could. He couldn't believe that his perfect life was turned upside down so fast. As he looks ahead, he sees Shiratori quietly approaching, and he begs for him to help. And there Shiratori is looking at him with dead eyes, and he can't believe that his lie about the flash drive worked so perfectly. As he puts out the fire by this time, his entire arm is burned to a crisp, and he brings out the expensive pen that he bought and tells him that his teacher would never let him die. And as he smiles, knowing that his teacher would take care of him, Shiratori tells him in a cold tone that he would save anyone, and those he will save will continue their career as well, but in his case, it will not be possible. As he touches his shoe, he slams his shoes on his hand and tells him that he has failed. Yui cries from the pain, and Shiratori breaks the pen in half and tells him the words that he told him in the past. He repeats and tells him that to this society, he is just useless. As he cries and begs for mercy, he remembers how he treated Kuro's and starts to mutter "forgive me" over and over again. As tears overflowed, he exclaims and shouts at the top of his lungs that bullies can never be forgiven. His thunder scream is heard loud and clear, and he continues and tells him to suffer like this for the rest of his days. There, Yui's arm and face are entirely burned, and he weeps as his career, he was so proud of, ends by the hand of his victim. Shiratori's quest for revenge has just begun. After some time, Mitani's eyes widen after hearing that her lost underwear was found. Shiratori added that they were found in a locker in a common place, but she ends up sulking for a bit, and he asks if there is something troubling her. Her soul reflects that she ended up creating a lot of trouble for everyone, and if she was a little more cautious, she could have avoided a lot of terrible stuff. Now Kuro's himself reflects that this might be true, and in the first place he used her to take revenge on one of his classmates. She smiles and thanks him, and she also lets him know that she would not share this with anyone, and with a calm voice, he asks if she would keep this from her as well. She began to stutter, and he points out how these two were together all the time, and his boyfriend himself has confirmed their relationship. As she exclaims, asking if her boyfriend really spilled the beans, she ended up falling into his trap. She made a troubled expression, and with a serious tone he asks if she hasn't talked about other personal and serious things with each other. With a weak voice she replies that her boyfriend already has a lot on his plate, and she would rather keep it quiet than to bother him with anything. Now this was obviously going to be his second start of the revenge, and he pushes Mitani to ask her boyfriend about the things that he might be hiding from her, and he also shares that if he really cares about her, he would share everything to her. Now we were about to get a proper introduction to our bully number 2. In a sport field, students were playing basketball, and a rather intense exchange between players was taking place. The opposite team ended up scoring a 3-pointer, and Kuriko was furious. He shouts at his teammate for not passing the ball to him, and he immediately grabs onto Shiba's collar and lifts him. The tone and aggressive behavior he had was terrifying, and poor Shiba just kept staring at that trash. He was so angry that Shiba just kept looking at him, scared and helpless. He answers his question, and he kicks him hard in front of everyone. Instead of standing for their classmate, all the trash classmates just kept muttering to themselves that another commotion has taken place. Kuriko finally wins the argument, and Shiba began to beg him to stop pressing him so much. For a minute, when he saw Shiba's crying face, he remembered how Curious also begged them when they would rain hell on him, and this just made him more angry, and he began to slam his foot with his guts. Kuriko asks himself why he is so furious about the situation regarding Curious, and it seemed like when he found out about the brain damage he suffered, he was guilty, but also he was scared that someone could point their fingers at him. He mutters to himself that he can't stand every single one of these trash. After their sports session, he began to act as a normal civilized student, and he waves all of his students goodbye. His friend mutters how Kuriko never goes home after the games, and on the other side, he greets someone who is waiting for him in the park. As his girlfriend gives him a bag of cookies and something else, she adds that today was their 6-month anniversary, and he jolts after realizing that he didn't brought her anything. Now since he forgot to bring her a present, she asks her if they could go public as their 6-month anniversary, and immediately his tone changes, and he replies that he can't make his boys jealous of their pair. He asks if she has any idea how many boys would want to have her, and as we see Mitani standing there, Kuriko was dating Mitani, and he lets her know that dating her still feels like a dream. As he laughs, they were still at the beginning level of relationship, and he proposes to her that they should take their relationship to the next level. But what he meant was a physical relationship. She laughs it off and remembers that her teacher said some very serious stuff, and with a shaking voice she asks him if he would like to tell her something that has been troubling him. Immediately his eyes widen, and he questioned himself if she knows the bullying he did and all the stuff related to Kuro's, and he began to spew some random stuff. He obviously was a bad liar, and Mitani just lowers her head and accepted the fact that he won't be revealing anything to her soon. That day she messaged Shiratori, who knew that this was going to happen, and while he relaxed, he was laying traps that Kuriko was to fall in and then get sunk into the abyss. The next target was going to be Kuriko, and instead of inflicting physical pain, he was going to go one step ahead. He messages Mitani that they would meet soon and discuss everything, and Shiratori was about to snatch away his friend, his classmates, his lover, and everything that he treasures more than anything. As he smirks, he just moved another important piece of the puzzle, and Kuro's was enjoying every single second of this. The horrible things that Kuriko did to Kuro's was unexplainable and often just land him into a severe medical condition. One time he was ordered to bring Kuriko and his trash friend some food, and when he returned, he shouted at him for bringing a totally different thing and spewed how it is already late and they can't eat the food in time now. He also ended up getting them a spicy one, and immediately they decide to punish him right there during the lunch break. They sat on him and opened his eyes wide and began to pour the spicy sauce in his eye, and he screamed like never before. As he jolted from the excruciating and unexplainable pain, Kuriko began to poke his eye, and he pulls out his phone and spews how he has to obey them forever. And in the first place, there is none in his life who would really believe the things happening. Now Kuro's had convinced everyone around him that all Kuriko and the bullies are his friends, and he pointed this out and spewed how he can't do anything. This time he challenges him to name anyone who could step in for him. He remembers that he has 2 friends, but they distanced themselves when they saw him getting bullied. As he mocked him for being lonely and empty, the suffering began again, and he kept pouring the spicy mixture in his eyes. Back to the present, he asks if it was his fault for getting bullied and losing his friend, but that doesn't matter anymore. He has some very cruel things planned for him, and on Sunday he was planning on meeting Mitani. As she was nervous, all around her were old men hanging out with younger girls, and she was scared for her life. From the back, Shiratori greets her, and she just panics like a cat. As they walk to a nearby place where they were to get something to eat, Mitani had thought that they were about to stop by a love hotel, and he asks if she hates cafes or something. As he created a fake comfortable environment and atmosphere around each other, they sat down and they began to spew on their relationship updates. He kept giving her fake advice with really no research behind, but they were all related to her case, and she was fully convinced that Shiratori would help them out. As he points out all the problems that there could be in their relationship, with a bold tone, he shares that maybe Kuriko has another girlfriend. He began to talk down this to her, and she stands up for him. He proposes and lets her know that if she believes in him, then they should surely have a serious conversation between them. As she smiled hearing this, she exclaims that tomorrow she would arrange a date between them and talk serious things and progress their relationship forward. Now things were on the right track, and the next day it rained and Kuriko was on phone with Mitani. She asks him if he could be available for a date between them two, and immediately he agrees, and he shouts on the top of his lungs. He was wondering if she would introduce him to her parents, but from the back, Shiratori greets him and asks if he is free and could talk to him in the conference room. He refuses and shares that he has someone waiting for him, and his teacher asked if he could kindly reject it. But his tone changed, and in a cold voice he lets him know that he can't just delay a meeting with someone important to him. Shiratori corners and shares that he wants some time from him, and he had learned that Kurose was bullied severely. Hearing this he flinched, and he became a scaredy cat. He questioned if their actions are being noted or something, but this was just another tactic of Kurose's. Mitani was waiting for her boyfriend, and no matter what she said to him, it all went down the drain when he messaged her that he can't meet up with her. He lied to her that he was feeling sick and is already back at his home. She was worried for her sweet boyfriend. Now Shiratori on the other hand messages her and lets her know that Miss Nene had washed her underwear and she needs to grab it from the school right now. Since her plans were cancelled, she figured that she would get her underwear from the school. Things were all going too smoothly, and in the conference room, Kurose also asked for their female friend, who was also a big part of the bully. As they grunt from the endless queries, they were glad that no one had caught a whim to the bullying case of Kurose. They made their way outside, and it seems like her umbrella was gone, and she lets out a big exclamation. As Kuriko reminded her to be careful, she asked how was she going to get back home after this. He makes a troubled expression and proposes that they could share his umbrella with each other. As she slightly blushed, they had no idea what was about to happen. Ahead of them, Mitani was standing, and from one look at the thing they were doing, she knew that Kuriko was having a fun time with his second girlfriend. As the both panicked, she asks him in a shaking voice that wasn't he sick. She asks why he is here, and they go absolute nuts. He started to explain the situation to her and the way this was playing out. Her attitude towards him changed, and she smiles and leaves him without saying anything else other than a few harsh words. He sees this, and his whole world came crumbling down. As he called out to her, it was already too late. Back at Shiratori's place, he complained on how windy it was, and in front of him, he noticed a student. Mitani was sitting here all wet, and he asked if everything was all right. As she glanced at him, she had a hopeless expression, and her wet clothes just gave a different impression. He thanks Kuriko, who was busy finding her, and he takes Mitani to his place. Inside, he was sitting on his sofa, and Mitani was taking a shower at his place. Earlier, when they both met each other, she cries to him that he was right all along about Kuriko having another girl, and she drops to her knees and begins to cry. He tells her to relax and dry up so she wouldn't get a cold. This was the perfect time for him to crack something big in Kuriko's life. From the side, Mitani greets him one more time, and she was wearing his clothes. She thanks him for everything, and as she lowered her head, he blushed, and he lets her know that this is a secret between them. She notices his hamster, and they both began to play around. As she laughed, he pats her head and lets her know that he is glad to see her smiling again. As he also said some really cheesy lines, she blushed and cried how she is all alone in this. He comforts her, and he becomes a support she could relax on. He asks how they both met, and she shares that they met each other way back in middle school when she was a target of bullying. As a school festival was taking place, two girls were mocking her over and over again, and Kuriko comes to her help like a prince, and as he replies to the ugly girl. His reply caught Mitani's attention, and she was really entranced to him ever since that. She cries that Kuriko always wanted her to be strong, but Kurose was boiling from anger, and cried out how he ruined his life, but was sweet enough to flirt with other girls in his free time. He tells Mitani in a confident tone that she doesn't really need to get stronger if she can't. He replies to all her worries that people who are oppressed and bullied are not weak at all. She counters and adds that she is weak, but he answers that during the bullying phase a human brain is fed with hurtful words and statements, and in this way they began to develop a mindset like that. His next words had weight behind them, and he adds that people are not bullied because they are weak, but they are bullied and they become weak because of the oppressors and bullies. He holds up his hand and lets her know that she needs to promise him that she won't ever blame herself for what she felt. As she captured every single detail of his face, his words held her and carved his mark on her heart. He praises her strength to fight with bullies, and she begins to tear up as she promises him. He began to make a move, and slowly they were about to embrace each other. As they were in the middle of this, from the back a loud ringtone interrupts their sweet time, and when he left to check it, he checks the camera, and his eyes widen to see that Kuriko was standing there with a pissed expression. Just realizing how this could ruin everything, he began to huff, and wondered if he found out Mitani's location, and on top of this, if a student and a teacher are found alone, the career of Shiratori could go down the drain as well. He decided to just play it as he is out, and it seemed like he was ready to leave, but when he looked closer, Kuriko just sat there and decided to wait for him. From the back, Mitani asks if there is someone on the door, and Kuriko hears these mutterings, and immediately he asks if Shiratori is inside. Kuriko begins to bang on the door, and by this time Mitani figures that he is here for her. He immediately grabs onto Mitani, and unexpectedly, he touches her a little too hard. She groans and grunts, and Kuriko began to unlock the door to his place. The door was open, and when he heard the creaking sound of his door opening, Kuriko could see a sight which would make national news, and everything that he built would have been ruined. He was just about to enter, and immediately he shuts the door. He questions if Kuriko is here for some business, and quickly he locks the door. He began to beg his teacher that he needs to talk to him about something important. He shakes him off and lets him know that they need to do this tomorrow, but the desperation of Kuriko was real. He shouted at him to help right now. Mitani looks at Shiratori and mutters that she should leave right now, or a bigger misunderstanding could take place, and Kuro's was just taking loss after loss. She cries that she doesn't want to be a burden to her teacher, and she was about to open the door, but he pulls her hard, and they both end up falling down with a loud thud. Kuriko asks if everything is all right, and both Shiratori and Mitani get up. He quickly grabs onto Mitani and hugs her very tight, and he begs her to rethink everything. He lets her know that she already had a boyfriend, and her boyfriend found her in another man's house. He asks if she understands the rumors and misunderstandings people could create from this. He leans to her and shares that people could start referring her as a girl who could do it with everyone. She blushed and knew that her teacher was right about the things, and Kuriko just kept hanging around there. Shiratori replies to Kuriko that he has a girl over, and they are in the middle of something serious. The pest kept screaming for his attention, and Kuro's knew that he needed to make him understand. He slides his hand near Mitani's thigh, and she ends up screaming from pleasure. He lets his student know that he is in the middle of something private and can't just come out naked. As he creates another situation, he lets him know that he can't enter. Mitani, on the other hand, was blushing like crazy and began to tremble. He stroked her head and apologizes for making her scream. Kuriko ends up proposing that he could at least listen to his story. He began to explain how there is a misunderstanding between him and Mitani. To put everything in simple terms, he was there to beg Shiratori to explain everything to his girlfriend. Since he was the only one who called both of them to the conference room, it was kind of his fault that he was deemed a cheater. Now, if he would have kept his word, he would have trapped Shiratori into bigger trouble. But he ends up asking him to stay quiet about the case he is summoned for. Basically, Kuriko was scared that Mitani could find out about the harassment and bullying that he did. He shares that no matter how much he hides, in the end of the day, bullying is a scum's pleasure, and sooner or later it would leak out. He screamed, and since he made a rather angelic atmosphere and image around his friends and girlfriend, he was scared to death to let anyone know about his secret of being a scum who enjoys to torment others. They began to argue whose fault it is to be bullied and not, and that trash ends up ruining his entire image in front of Mitani, who hears him spew how bullying is a right thing that happened to the victim at fault. Hearing this, the timid Mitani, who considered him a great person, it just all goes down the drain, and Shiratori begins to thank him over and over again. Shiratori accepts his suggestion on bullying being the victim's fault. He tells him to share more about it. He asks if he is a bother to his partner, and he adds that she would like to hear more from the student. As they exchange some rather uncomfortable things, he shared how a person would anger some group of people, and that could be the reason for their bullying. He began a lecture on how one needs to improve if he wants to escape the bullying cycle. For them, people who were weaker than them were trash, and they bullied them to see if they would fight back and improve, and when people had enough they would just find more. He shouts that the person getting bullied deserved every bit of it, and he began to dig his own grave with the next things he said about a sense of justice and other crap. In his own eyes, he was a righteous person with no flaws, and the person he bullied were the lambs who deserved all the bad stuff. He lets his teacher know that for him foolishness must always be met with blood, and with a cold voice he tells his teacher to mind his own business and hold his tongue back. Kuriko reveals that bullying is much more complex than he thinks. As much as he wanted to argue, Shiratori was barely holding on, and he begged him to give him Mitani's address or phone number. He did a fake call, and he lets him know that her number is off. He promises to sort his problem tomorrow, but things were already done for, and as he hugged his student the next day, he enters the school, and he sees Mitani. He greets her, but she glances at him with a cold stare, and she lowers her head and lets him know that she can't be together with him anymore. His eyes widen, and he couldn't believe that he just lost the gem of a girlfriend just like that. After 6 days, Mitani had abandoned him and blocked him from all contact. As the nearby players also saw him getting weaker daily, Kuriko cried out that there is only one person that he could ask for help right now. As Shiratori's phone rung, he glances and he picks up the phone. He was sweating and breathing heavily, and Kuriko began to beg Shiratori to give him Mitani's address. He shares that it has been 6 days and Mitani hasn't been responding to his calls or messages. He lets him know that he can't reveal any personal information, but as we zoom out, Shiratori was shirtless and he was sweaty. Kuriko screams if he knows where Mitani is, and there we see that Shiratori was with someone. He lets Kuriko know that he has no idea, but in reality he was with her, and they just crossed their limits and took a 180 turn. As she pants from below, she was blushing and Shiratori was not slowing down. He kept talking to his student and enjoying the other side as well, and Kuriko points out how he is breathing heavily, and he had no idea what was happening on the other side. Shiratori just stole his girlfriend. Kuroz was crossing all limits to have the most brutal and evil revenge imaginable. The next day, he greets his ex-girlfriend one more time, and this time she just ignores him and dashes to the other side. From frustration and anger, he began to kick the nearby trash can, and his friend asked if he is heading to practice or not. Another person stayed behind. He wraps his arm around Kuriko and shares that without him the basketball team is very lonely. Hearing this, his pride boosts, and they began to walk toward the sport field. Shiratori asks if he is suffering or not and mutters to himself that it is just the start. He reflects that he needs to repent in order to wash away his sin from the past. In the sport field, they all were busy playing basketball again, and this time he screams at Shiba to hand him the ball. Shiba does what he was told and he passes the ball, but someone else grabs it from him and scores a point. Now this was all Kuriko's fault, but he blamed it all on someone else. So he shouted at his captain to hand him the ball, but he glares at Shiba, and immediately he tried to become a pro player, and the ball gets snatched from right under his nose. Trash Kuriko begins to blame about this to Shiba, and this time Shiba mutters to him that he always pushes the wrong thing on others. Kuriko hears this, and he begins to confront Shiba, and he pushes him down. He shouted and asked him about the things he just said, and Shiba began to share how if he doesn't get a right foot in the game, he blames others, and Shiba makes him remember one of the other things he said the other day. He averts his eyes knowing that he is wrong, and he replies to Shiba that it is his responsibility to understand the difference in their status and approach. With a weak voice, he lets that trash know that he is selfish for only thinking about himself. Shiba mustered the courage and explains how he has been screaming and hurting him because of his girlfriend who has left him. He shares that he saw his ass begging a girl from a different class. He asks if he did anything wrong to his girlfriend and if he comes here to take out all his anger. With a confident voice, he screamed that if things do not work for him, perhaps it is his fault. Now Shiba kept going on, and the usual fight ends up taking place. Shiratori tells a student to watch out while doing sports, and Shiba was in front of Shiratori with a first aid kit. We see his face completely bruised from top to bottom, and it was clear that Trash Kuriko was the culprit behind this. He excuses himself and leaves Shiratori, but when he was about to open the door, he grunts from pain. Shiratori immediately rushes towards Shiba, and he checks his body, and it was covered entirely with heavy purple bruising, which indicated that someone was beating him over and over again for a long period of time. In the next second, Shiratori asks if he has been bullied, and Shiba, obviously fearing for his life, refused this. But Shiratori puts his hands on his shoulder, and with a calm voice he begs him to share his burden with him. He lets that poor student know that he would surely protect him no matter what. As tears began to flow from his eyes, he cries out, and he shares that Captain Kuriko has been bullying him since summer, and it gets worse every time. As tears overflowed, he shares that today he mustered the courage to say some things. But then he began to hit him over and again, and didn't stop even after he apologized. Kuroz remembers the crap he said the other day, and he pats Shiba, and lets him know that he would handle the rest. After 1 week, Shiba enters the class, and all the students were muttering something to one another. He joins the circle, and asked if there is something new happening, and when he saw the thing in front, his desk was gone. He asks if this is a prank or something, and from the back Shiratori enters, and when he asked his teacher about this, he replies, and lets him know that this is not an issue since from today onwards he is not a part of this class, and even this school. Hearing this, cold sweat ran down his spine, and this was the second phase of crumbling. He asks if he really means that, and with a cold voice he lets him know that there is no place for him in this school. He screams and asks why is that the case, and Shiratori says that it has been a week since Shiba was absent, and due to his bullying he had to take a break from the school. He replies that surely he took a break from the school because he had a flu, but when he dashed towards Shiratori, he shows him a suspension letter from the school, and on it was clearly mentioned that he was to be kicked out of the school. He screamed and shared that he is innocent and never did anything wrong to anybody. He smacks the paper down and screams at his teacher, and he ends up seeing the main leader of their bully group who is glaring at him for being found out. He remembers his warning to not cause any troubles, and Shiratori asks if he is feeling guilty after what he did to Shiba. The students behind them began to blame him or muttered that it is scary to be around him. He glances at Shiratori and knew that he could do nothing, so he dashed outside with a temper. Things were all going just as he planned, and his sweet revenge was getting ready. He muttered to himself that now he would taste his own medicine. Back at his house, his mother screams at him for leaving the school and even creating trouble for her. He tells his mother that he didn't do any bullying, but she replies that she doesn't give an ounce of care for that, and she lets him know that he needs to get out by the night, and shares that she would have a customer today, and he needs to get out of the house. He shouts at his mother and spews how he hates when she brings random men over as a customer, and she puts him in his place and shares that if he hates it, then he can pack his bag and get the hell out. This was the broken home that he lived in, a mother who hated him and worked as an adult escort and who treated him like a burden. He grunts and began to kick the table in agony. Not only he lost his girlfriend, but his school as well. He cried out about the things that happened to him and how they were all over the place, and his phone began to go off. His basketball group began to message him, and they began to comfort him and shared that they stand behind him and would fully support him to come back again. As he laughed, he was so glad to have wonderful friends, and he knew that his life was not that bad after all. His doorbell rings, and he was sure that his friend was there to give him dinner, and when he checked, there was no one. He glances to his side, and there was actually not a single soul there, but from his back a rabbit mascot attacks him, and in the next second it tries to enter his apartment. He tries to close the door, but the man places his foot in the door and makes his way inside. All his manliness goes away, and he asks who is he. The masked man points to his mask and lets him know that he is Kuroz. As he screamed, he began to run away. His quick moves really proved that he was a basketball player, and he completely went crazy and began to spew how he first needed to contact the police. He drags a big bookshelf to make the door impossible to open, but immediately Shiratori runs and opens the second door. He enters and asks if he has forgotten all about Kuroz and the things they did to him. He began to attack him, but all his punches missed, and as he shouted on the top of his lungs, the rabbit man kicked him in his leg and dropped him. He gets on top of him, and as they exchanged a rather serious conversation, he began to cry like an infant, and he cried that things they did to him were not violence, and they were just teaching him a few things. Shiratori grinded his teeth from hearing such half-assed stuff. The rage and anger in Shiratori was too great, and in the next second, he began to twist his precious arm around. As he screamed from the pain, a cracking noise began to fill the room, and in the next second Shiratori breaks his arm in the most brutal way ever. He screamed in agony, and immediately he falls unconscious. After some time, he slowly opens his eyes, and in front of him the rabbit man sat, and Shiratori greeted him. As he asked where he was, Shiratori muttered to him that they are 30 minutes away from the city, and in a perfect place where they can test a few things out. He began to beg him to not kill him, and he shines a flashlight at his face. Kuriko opened his eyes to see that he was in the center of dozens of explosives, and with a cold voice Shiratori lets him know that today his fate lies in his hands. As Shiratori lights the fuse, he lets him know that he has 60 minutes to make his life worth something. He tells him to contact all his friends and family and ask for their help. He lets him know that if they come here to save him in 30 minutes, he can survive, and a big slap would hit on Kurosa's face for underestimating the relationships and bond that Kuriko has with all the people. He asks if this is a fair game or not, and he leans over to Kuriko and mutters to him that surely this is not a problem for someone popular like him. Immediately he laughs and shares that the kind of bonds that he has with everyone, no one can build it. He glares at him and spews that all his friends would gather here in less than 30 minutes. As Shiratori laughed, the trash leader of the bully gets a message in which Kuriko was begging for everyone's help. As he pondered what this is all about, everyone began to call each other and shared how they got a strange-looking message from Kuriko. They shared that he could be in a very dangerous situation and pointed on how Kuro's is in the hospital and could never hurt Kuriko and others even if he wanted to. He shares that this could be related to the bullying incident that took place a few days ago in which he was supposed to be involved. The leader lets everyone know that if they stepped in here, they could be labeled as the allies of Kuriko in the bullying. With a chilling tone, he asks everyone if they are going to help Kuriko and risk their livelihood, and immediately all their words leave their mouth, and a scum's friend is a scum indeed. They decide to abandon the trash Kuriko. After some time, Shiratori read a message from everyone in the group. They replied to Kuriko's request by writing that they are busy with their own stuff, and they would surely reach out to the teacher and share his location with him. When he heard this, his mouth just dropped to the floor. The great bonds that he bragged about just ignored his request in the most crucial time. He laughs at his so-called friends and shares that this is what he deserves. Kuriko screams and lets him know that they might be busy and screams for him to check up on his basketball group. He searches for replies from the basketball group, and not a single person replied back to him. The number of people who read the message increased, but no one was caring to help him at all. Everyone was leaving him on hold. He screamed that surely he has been working behind the scenes and not really sending messages to the right people, and it seemed like Shiratori had created a secret account for a basketball team in which Kuriko was not invited in, and in that chat every single one of the players were spewing and texting on how they are not stupid to risk their life for an abuser. As they mocked his excuses for attention, everyone was ignoring him and also writing different things about him. As they decided to just ignore him, all his bonds and friends that he bragged about just ghosted him like never before, and Shiratori lets him know that everyone in the class and school hated him. His eyes widened, and he cried out that this is all just a lie. The fuse quickly approached near his head, and he made a terrifying expression of someone in pain. He screamed and shouts at Shiratori to message his girlfriend Matani, and he asks if he was referring to that sex addict girl of his. His eyes widen, and he lets him know that she is not like that, and in the next second, he shows him a video in which his so-called girlfriend was with someone else and groaning in pleasure all around the place. As she sweated like crazy, and the audio just made him lose his sanity. His eyes were just not ready to accept such a cruel response to his life. As Shiratori added how a girlfriend of his was a beast in bed, Kuriko hears his girlfriend cry out that she was climaxing while getting embraced by another. Shiratori lets his dumbass know that he is the biggest idiot of all time, and in the next second tears overflow, and he shouts that he was sorry. He screamed and screamed sorry over and over, but Shiratori gets up and leaves him. The bomb near him ignites, and as he leaves, a loud explosion takes place. As the smoke left the area, Shiratori returns, and Kuriko was there coughing and tears covered his face. He sits down and begins to explain how he wasn't going to kill him with explosion, but rather he wants to try something else. Shiratori completely ruptured his ears, and as blood flowed from it, he had no idea what Shiratori was saying. He drags him out from the ground, and he tells him that he is free to go wherever he wants to. He questions to himself just where in God's good green earth he could go, and after remembering everything that just happened, he screams and dashes like never before. He cried and apologized for hurting others, and he questioned things about his philosophy that he was so proud of. He gets out and sees an open road leading to nowhere, but when he stepped on the ground, a flash of light blinds him from the side, and since his ears were done for, he couldn't hear the truck coming from the side. That day he gets demolished by a truck, and the second trash of the revenge gets struck with karma. Later the third bully gets a cold reminder, but Shiratori's real identity is in danger since real Shiratori's old friend meets him. He questions just how can he communicate. Kuros in the hospital also shows signs of recovering and was about to wake up from his slumber.